All right, so we come to the last uh, day of this particular training, and today
Hi,
let's see
I'm
what we
Wesley.
configure. Did we not finish CloudWatch yesterday? We did. So let's go to
Hello,
CloudFront.
welcome to the Amazon Cloudfront introductory video. In this video, I will talk about this AWS service that allows you to scale out, save money, have more performance on your applications. I'm Rafael Lopez with the AWS Training and Certification team. As part of the team, I have contributed to develop and deliver exclusive training content like this one. In this video, I'll briefly talk about the AWS Global Infrastructure and also give you an overview about Amazon Cloudfront. We'll see how easy it is to create and configure a CDN, then I will talk about some use cases and do a demo to show you how Cloudfront can help your content delivery by reducing network latency. Let's talk a little bit about the AWS Global Infrastructure and how it is related to Cloudfront.
So reducing network latency. Remember that word. Okay, I told you earlier also what is latency. As simple as if I'm pulling a data from a server which is in the US to India, it has to travel across the world, and the time that it takes to travel in generally it is in milliseconds. It will be like for Hyderabad, it may be around 250 milliseconds or something. Hyderabad to Virginia, maybe. I don't know which side is Virginia, whatever side it is. So, uh, but if I call it from Singapore, which is somewhere here, this will be Hyderabad, Singapore is 55 milliseconds. So the data will travel faster from Singapore to India rather than anywhere else across in the world.
Delivering content to your users, Amazon Cloudfront uses a global network of more than 80 edge locations and more than 10 regional edge caches for content delivery. The edge locations are located in multiple countries around the world, and this number frequently increases. So basically, by using Cloudfront, you can leverage multiple locations around the world to deliver your content, allowing your users to interact with your application in a lower latency. For example, if your application is running in Singapore and your users are in New York, you can use Cloudfront to cache the content locally in New York and let the service help you scaling whatever your demand requests. With all of these points of presence around the world, we can say that Amazon Cloudfront is a content delivery network, or CDN for short. Cloudfront allows you saving money due to its lower rates on data transfer out. It also helps you on making your customers happier because it can cache content close to them, which increases the chances to deliver your content faster. It is deeply integrated with other AWS services such as AWS Web Application Firewall, AWS Certificate Manager, Amazon Route 53, Amazon S3, and others. It is pretty simple to create and configure a CDN on CloudFront. The easiest way to start is by going on the AWS Management Console and clicking on the Create Distribution button. Then, you choose what is the CDN type you want to create. RTMP is used for video streaming and web.
So AWS is discontinuing RTMP. I think very soon it's going to remove it out. So let me tell you what is RTMP. It is called real-time media protocol. Okay, real-time media protocol. So if you want to develop a software which is video conferencing, live video conferencing between two people, or one to many or whatever, okay, or many to many, you will be using this protocol called real-time media protocol. So CloudFront used to support that real-time media protocol. I think they are removing it from here. I think they will merge it, I don't know, maybe with the elemental framework and all. So I'll have to see that.
Is designed to use it by usual content delivery that is not a video stream, which doesn't mean that this content should be static only. You can use CloudFront to deliver dynamic content on a web distribution tool. On the next screen, you must specify at least one origin and one behavior. Basically, the origin can be your S3 bucket or any application that you run even outside AWS. You can put the IP address of your web server, the load balancer endpoint, or any other endpoint that can be reachable over the internet. The behavior basically matches what is the URL pattern that it wants to associate with that origin. You need to specify one origin now, but you can always edit these preferences in the future. You can have multiple origins associated to multiple behaviors. For example, you can use an S3 bucket as an origin for the requests that are your CDN/images, such as, for example, sampleapplication.net/images. And you can use your Elastic Load Balancer for everything else. On that same screen, you can scroll down and find the button that creates the CDN distribution. Totally self-service and without having to open any support tickets. You can even use other AWS services or the AWS command line interface to automate the creation of new distributions for new environments. Some use cases include, for example, static asset caching, live and on-demand video streaming, security and DDoS protection, API acceleration, and actually, whatever your imagination allows. We from AWS are interested in learning from you what is your use case for our services. I will do a demo so as you can see how Cloud Formation can help you having your content accelerated. My application is located in Singapore, and I will use Cloudfront to accelerate that by caching content locally in an edge location that is closer to me, over the Pacific Ocean, here in Seattle. Here, I have my application running in a T2 Micro EC2 instance in Singapore. And actually, I can see that this instance is running in Singapore because I am logged on the AWS Management Console from Singapore. If I connect on that instance over SSH, because that instance is a Linux instance, I can see that I have a web server running on that instance. If I go to my log folder for my HTTP server, and do a tail-f on the access log file, for every request that I have on the web page that is being served by this web server, I will have a line here in this log file. So if I get the IP address of my application and put in a browser, for every time that I make the request, you can see that I have activity here in the access log. If I refresh the page, I will see another line in my log file. If I refresh the page again, another one. So you can see that I am independently doing requests and pointing every request to my single instance in Singapore. As you can see, this infrastructure is not running under a Cloudfront because I'm making the requests straight out to the instance's IP address. You can see that every time I make a request, I have a high latency because the requests are going from here in Seattle to Singapore. In this case, I have 447 milliseconds. Every time I refresh the page, I can see the latency from here to Singapore. 375, 374, 407 milliseconds. So you can see that the latency is pretty high. What I did to resolve that problem and use Cloudfront is create a new Cloudfront distribution, which in this case is this one, and specifying that web server as my origin, and specifying a single behavior that points everything, as you can see by the wildcard, the star, to that origin. From that moment, you can use the domain name of the Cloudfront distribution, or you can use your own CNAME. For this case, I'm using cdn.sampleapplication.net as the CNAME for this Cloudfront distribution to avoid having to use this name and exposing this name to my users. So if I go to cdn.sampleapplication.net and refresh the page, you will see that there is no activity on my web server, and this is because Cloudfront had cached that content in an edge location that is closer to me. You can also see that the latency of these requests to the CDN are much faster than having to go on the server for every request. You can see 88 milliseconds, 111 milliseconds, 12 milliseconds, 22 milliseconds, 31, and actually, you don't see activity on my web server. Cloudfront also helps me keeping my high availability demo. I hope you learned a little something and will continue to export other videos. I'm Rafael Lopez with the AWS Training and Certification team. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so I hope you understood how CloudFront works. Let me show you one portal. I don't know how many of you know this, cloudping.info. If any of your customers is asking what kind of latency it is from where, just go to this website, cloudping.info. And this is something even AWS recommends to see. Okay, several ways. Click the button below to estimate the latency from your browser to each AWS region. So I can just click on this button and you will see that from every AWS region, it will start showing me the latency. So this is a very good place to, when you do solutioning and you're talking to customers, you can show what is the least latency. For example, if I go, okay, so one more important thing about latency is, like when I say what is the nearest region to my location. So if you go to Bangladesh and ping from there, the distance between Bangladesh to Mumbai is lesser than that of Singapore. But when you look at the latency, the Singapore latency will be lesser for Bangladesh than for India. It's because of the hops. Okay, when it comes to, if I go to Mumbai, I don't know how it hops. It's taking a longer route to hop to Mumbai than reaching Singapore. Maybe it may have a direct ceiling from Bangladesh to Singapore or whatever. But reaching Mumbai is a bigger hop, so the latency is also higher. So it also depends on not just the crow fly distance or the distance between one location to other. It also depends on the hops it is taking to reach. What is a hop for people who don't understand? Like, you never have a direct connection between your system or your ISP to the end ISP. It hops between multiple ISPs on the way. Okay, so and many multiple ISPs finally creates the circuit on which the data flows, right? So that is what is called the hops. So in this case, from Hyderabad, if you see, as I told, it's about 53 milliseconds. Okay, that is the nearest. Obviously, Mumbai is the nearest, but not much of difference between Mumbai and Singapore when it comes to latency. Okay, Middle East is the next closer, and so it goes on. The highest we have is at 370, which is China. Okay, and yeah, so that is 395. Another one. Hong Kong is another highest, right? So this is a very useful thing for your purpose. So let's go back. And the last topic, let's see what we have.
Hi, I'm Andy Cummings with AWS Training and Certification. Welcome to an introduction to AWS Cloud Formation. I've been with AWS for going on 1.5 years now, and I'm currently responsible for delivering live training events to AWS customers across North America. In this video, we will introduce AWS Cloud Formation. We're going to go through an overview and potential use cases of the service, and then walk through a demonstration to see the service in action. So what is Cloud Formation? So Cloud Formation simplifies the task of repeatedly and predictably creating groups of related resources that power your applications. Note those keywords in there. Simplifies, repeatedly, and predictably. Cloud Formation is all about automating resource provisioning. So how do we interact with AWS services? We call application programming interfaces, or APIs, to tell the services what to do. There are 3 methods for calling APIs: the AWS Management Console, the AWS Command Line Interface, or CLI, and using the language-specific software development kits or direct API calls. Using one of the 3 methods, we can construct virtual environments for our workloads. We use API calls such as create VPC to construct a virtual private cloud, or launch instances to create a new EC2 instance. In this example, we have an application running on an EC2 instance in a single subnet within a VPC. The application calls a DynamoDB table and uses an S3 bucket. So how can we automate this process, or how can I duplicate this environment? More specifically, how can I automate the provisioning of AWS resources? Although there are several different tools you can use for automation, CloudFormation is essential to understand because of its powerful reach into so many AWS services. So what does CloudFormation do? First, it's a fully managed service, so there's no infrastructure to support. CloudFormation can create, update, and delete resources in sets known as stacks. Let's get an overview of the service and discuss some potential use cases. The big picture process for CloudFormation is really simple. CloudFormation reads template files. What's a template file? Well, that's the instructions on what resources to actually go ahead and provision. CloudFormation constructs a file, and the output of this process is your environment, which is known as a stack. You can create a template that creates a single resource stack or a stack with hundreds of resources. How do you control CloudFormation? Well, we're back to our three main interfaces, the AWS Management Console, the CLI or SDK API calls. This means that you can interact with the service through the Management Console or build scripts to automate CloudFormation actions. So let's talk a little bit more about stacks. Stacks are the resources generated by a template, but they're also a unit of deployment. You can create stacks, make updates by rerunning a modified template, and even delete stacks. When you delete a stack, by default, all of the resources in the stack are deleted. Remember, it's a unit of deployment. Most organizations modularize stacks by creating separate templates for networking, security, and applications. Okay, let's take a closer look at templates. Templates describe the resources to provision. These are text files written in JSON or YAML format. As an added benefit, if you provision your environment using templates, then your templates become a form of documentation for your environment. In a template file, well, it's the same information that you would specify if you built the environment manually through the console. There's no mystery here. The template does use specific formatting constructs, but the resource and property information is the same. Is that you don't have to in the exact order of creation. We can use the depends on attribute to control the order CloudFormation will create the resources, so we can build a sequence of events like when a database server needs to be created before a web server can be created. Is a template only good for creating a single environment? If you add parameters and conditions to your template, you can use the parameters are variables in a template. When you run the template through CloudFormation, you must fill in the parameters. This means that if you select parameter 1, you can generate the development stack, and parameter 2 will generate the production stack. This makes your template more flexible and functional. What happens to all these templates you create? Each template is an example of infrastructure as code, which simply means you control your infrastructure through software code. Software, like templates, is flexible. You can change it. You can also keep different versions of the same template. This is exactly what developers do with source code for applications, and that's exactly how you want to treat your templates. Organizations that rely on CloudFormation build out template libraries much as they do code repositories for applications. There are two critical requirements for running CloudFormation. The first, templates, we've already discussed. If the template has an error, by default, CloudFormation will stop processing and roll back any objects already created from the template. The second requirement to run CloudFormation is whoever is calling the template to be processed must have permissions to all the services referenced in the template. You can also control who has the ability to even process a template through CloudFormation. Okay, let's do a brief demo with CloudFormation so you can see this for yourself. We're going to use CloudFormation Designer, which is part of the CloudFormation service. CloudFormation Designer is a great tool to get started with if you don't have a lot of experience working with JSON or YAML formats. The tool will build the guts of our template using a drag and drop interface. We're going to create a new template that will generate a VPC resource. We'll add in a resource template and finish up by viewing the newly created VPC. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to open up CloudFormation by way of the Management Console. So I'm going into my services, type in CloudFormation. Okay, now once we're inside, we're going to choose to go ahead and create a brand new stack. So I'm going to choose the Create New Stack button right here. Now you can load up templates that you already have, or you can design from scratch. Now the interface for the CloudFormation Designer is set up so at the top of the screen on the left-hand side we have a listing of our resource types, and we drag those over onto the template area here, the grid on the top. That's actually going to start to build out our parameters for the template. So let's go over and we're going to go over to EC2. VPC is actually part of EC2. You would think it would be under networking, but because EC2 resources must go into VPC, that's why these are tied together. I'm going to drag the VPC out into the grid area here. Now you can see what happens just down below on the screen here. It's actually building out the template here. So that is a logical representation of a VPC inside this grid at the top. Now down below, what we're really interested in is the template. And as you can see down below, it actually created a resource entry inside the template. It's specifying specifically that it's going to be a VPC down below, and we need to fill in some properties. So now when we go to create a VPC, the only properties that are actually required are the name of the VPC, which we already have in here, and we're going to add in the CIDR block, which is the network address here. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add that together. I'm going to do my Control-Shift. That's actually going to pull up a list of the properties to actually choose from for this particular object, and then we'll go ahead and choose CIDR block. I'm going to add in a colon, followed by parentheses, the data we need, 10.0.0.0/16. And we are set and ready to go. So what we now have is we have the basics for a template here to go ahead and create one resource. Now where we're going to go with this, I'm going to go to the upper left here, and we'll say that we want to create the stack. Now, as soon as we do this, we'll come back and say, okay, this is back to the screen that we were on before. Now we've already designed the template. The template that we just created was automatically added to an S3 bucket for us, and it's all set and ready to go. So we'll just go ahead and say next here. We're going to put a name on our stack. Let's call this VPC2. Give it a next. All right. Now we can add additional tags inside also, and then you can also specify the role as necessary if someone does not have the appropriate permissions over here. We're going to click on through that so we can see our end result. There's a summary to review, and we'll finish up with the create statement. All right. Now it doesn't look like a heck of a lot's going on over here, but what we're going to do is then we will swing back to our stacks. Okay, so as we can see, the creation of the stack is complete. Our VPC has been run through, and what we can actually see here, we're still in Cloud Formation. Let's skip over in our services real quick. Go on over to VPC. And we just want to clarify that we can see the VPC that was actually created. So we'll go on and take a look at VPCs. And the second VPC on the list, the first one is our full for the region right down below. And the second one, as you can see, there's our 10.0.0/16, and we've got a new VPC. Okay, so let's summarize what we've learned. AWS Cloud Formation is a fully managed service which acts as an engine to automate the provisioning of AWS resources. Cloud Formation reads template files which specify the resources to deploy. Provisioned resources are known as the stack. Stacks can be created, updated, or deleted through Cloud Formation. Remember that every AWS service that you learn about is another tool to build solutions. The more tools you can bring to the table, the more powerful you become.
Okay, so I didn't speak much in between. This is mostly to-do technical, but bottom line is that we, if all you guys who were there in my last meeting, which I had before this COVID stuck, okay, where I was saying that we have to do this SRE, okay, site reliability engineering, you know, we have to introduce in a company. So primarily all these trainings that I'm doing is trying to boot up people and so that people can, you know, get a part of that SRE implementation. You know, that is my end goal, right? So the start of an SRE implementation is with Cloud Formation. So by our good luck, you know, one of the clients which we are working right now has asked for a Cloud Formation to be implemented mandatorily from their infrastructure, which the DevOps team is already doing, working on it. So that is a good start. You know, we already have a start on the SRE part of it. And once it is done, I will put up a separate demo for that Cloud Formation for all of you guys so that you can understand what has happened. Okay, so as of now, I would urge, or I would recommend, or I would, heavily ask you guys to work on writing small cloud formation templates, or in simple, if you take a task, just go and create the yes, you all are aware, we have discussed about this multiple times. Okay, can you use cloud formation and create a simple architecture like this? Okay, a very simple architecture like this, which has got a two, which has got a VPC. Under the VPC you have two AZs, and two AZs in that you have VPC, and then you have servers launched into it, the databases and all. So one single cloud formation should be able to do this. And you just saw how you can drag and drop and do most of these things. So use that, use that and do some kind of practice. You really don't have to go and launch it. They also have a cloud formation tester. AWS console itself has that. Okay, so go in there and you test your cloud formation. When you test it, it will immediately go and check in and tell you what is working and what is not working in that. Be encouraged to do that. That is, only you guys can do it yourself. Apart from showing the path, I can't do anything on this one. Okay, so what is the knowledge check? Which of the following statements best describes Cloudfront? Tell me.
Speeds up the delivery of your content to viewers across the globe.
Very good. Who was this? Who was this?
Shivaganesh.
Huh?
Shivaganesh.
Shivaganesh. Very good. Very good. So let us see if Shivaganesh is right. Correct. So that is the bottom line. That is what it does. Right? You have completed this module, you may close this window. So if I say next, what will happen? Done, huh? Okay, superb. So Cloud Practitioner's Essential is what we were learning right now. You guys can, this is a free training in which way. If you want to revise anything, you can just go there and revise in your account and write this training. After this, BizPro and TechPro are very simple things. I can see most of you have written it now. There was an update that came, apart from 2 or 3 or 4 guys. Okay, so write those BizPro, TechPro in which ways, and start with this Cloud Practitioner. Will give you a good boost to your next certification. Morale boost rather. That you can pass out these solution architect. Sorry, pass out more complex exams. Okay, so the next training when I start, maybe next week sometime, I'll plan and I'll send you. That will be we'll be running a solution architect training. Okay, people who are techs can join that. People who are not tech can also join that if they're interested. But that will be a further deep dive into everything, right? So that you can get yourself certified on the solution architect exams, right? In that, I will need some more experts like Rakesh and Rakesh Shaw and 3, 4 other guys, Anand and all coming in. Okay, and because I'm not as much detailed expert as they are into their own vertical topics, right? So we'll be talking verticals in that. So, but that will help. That will help you in preparing for your exam. So thanks a lot for all these days coming through. I hope there were some takeaways for people who are. There's always some takeaway when you enter training. So build up on those. Okay, thank you. So anyone question? One to 10, I count. No questions. Fair enough. So thanks a lot for coming. And what else can we run as a training? I'll arrange for that. All right. Thank you.